What if a resin didn't have to stay flat? In today's video, I am bending resin and the rules. Let's do it. It all starts with this gigantic garden tray. And no, you don't have to do this so big, but why would I not go big on something that I've never tried before? Let's see if we can fit this on my table. Okay, it literally just about fits. Yes, that should have been something that I should have checked earlier, but we're lucky, it fits. Next, we need some plastic. You know the stores where they like sell these by meter? Nothing special about it. It's just clear plastic. I'm gonna lay this out and we'll move on to the next step. So I've laid down my plastic and listen, don't stress if this is not perfectly smooth. I mean, the whole point of this piece is to bend and have movement. So a few crinkles are totally fine. Now it's time to mix up a ridiculous amount of resin. I'm obviously using my Jade Official's resin and you'll find it linked in the description along with my discount codes. And I'll link the garden tray, the plastic sheets, the whole chaotic kit in the description for you guys. Because I'm working with so much resin, I'm obviously going to have to mix it in batches to make sure I don't end up flash curing it, and it is quite hot where I am at the moment, so I want to make sure I don't heat this up too quickly. So I started pouring a few layers of clear resin down to build as a base, and then I'll go with the colors on top. Doing it this way makes life so much easier and less chaotic. Can you imagine mixing that much amount of color? Not only is that going to get too stressful, it's also going to waste a lot of pigment in my car if you had to color all that resin from the get-go. So trust me, future self will thank you. Speaking of color, I went for like a whole vibe. Think Richard Moore's moody gray with some rich chocolate brown, a pop of burnt orange, and a touch of blue, just for those cheeky accents. And of course, some black to anchor all of that in. It's moody, it's warm, it's dramatic, just how I like it. As you can see, I've laid down the colors on a diagonal. I want them to flow and do their own thing. And honestly, that's like my favorite part about resin. It moves, it decides. It's got a whole personality of its own, and I love that. So rather than fight it, I feel like it's best to sort of lean into and use that movement to our advantage, especially with this piece. For the black, I've used alcohol inks and I'm just placing it where I feel like it's needed. And I love to mix different colorants in one piece. For example, in this piece, I've mixed pigment pastes, mica powders, and alcohol inks. And I feel like each of them behave differently, react differently, and it gives a lot of depth and visual texture and movement to the piece. And one of my favorite things to do, and I'm sure it's not a surprise if you work with resin, is just to dive right in and use my hands. I love blending that chaos, gently guiding the pigments where I want them. It's messy, it's intuitive, and honestly, it's where the magic happens. Once I'm happy with the chaos I've created, it's time to pop some bubbles and let this whole thing cure. And while it sets, it's finally time for some play with Sky, who's been quite patient with me. He also wants to remind you to like, comment, and sub because he is, after all, a professional content assistant, and he wants you to leave him some treat emojis in the comments. Okay, it's been a good few hours. It's really hot, so the resin has cured quicker. So I think we're ready to kind of create some folds in here. Hopefully. When I lift up this, the resin isn't necessarily flowing off the plastic. That's kind of what tells me that we might be ready for some folds. Now, when it came to the folding part, I wasn't entirely sure how I was going to pull it off. My first thought was to pick up the plastic and fold it myself in certain areas, but the moment I tried it, I realized it's not the best plan. It was awkward and I didn't want to mess up the resin mid-cure, so I aborted that and I grabbed some wooden blocks. Though honestly, you could use any object like this. piece. And I placed them underneath the plastic wherever I wanted the resin to sort of bend and curve. So this was an easy hack with zero panic. And once again, it was time to leave this whole thing to cure before we even think about peeling the plastic. But you get to skip the waiting because this is YouTube and they love a bit of time jump.
You must have heard surely of movie magic.
The piece actually came off quite easily. I lifted the whole thing out of the garden tray first and then slowly started to pull away the plastic. And honestly, it wasn't bad at all. Surprisingly smooth, and the plastic came off really easily. Yeah, I gotta be honest, it's giving mid. I mean, I don't hate it, but I don't love it either. So I don't know. I'm going to work on it and see what we get to and see how we can make it better. Now, first things first, I had to deal with those sharp, pointy edges. A mix of scissors and my trusty deburring tool did the trick. Now, we do want those irregular organic edges. I mean, that's part of the whole look, but we definitely don't want them to be slicing someone's finger off. The goal here was to keep the drama, but lose the danger. This feels like a good time for me to give a massive shout out to Dreams in Color 71. Thank you ever so much for your comments and likes. Your support means the world to me. Once the edges were sorted, it was time to figure out how I was actually going to mount this thing. And you see me taking some measurements here, and that's because I want to get the right size canvas to attach this piece to. A piece like this doesn't exactly hang itself, it needs a base. So I'm going with a canvas, and what I need to do is to turn this white canvas into a black piece because our piece is black. And I'm just doing that by using a few coats of black gesso at the bottom, front, the sides, the whole thing. Now, to mount the piece, I'm screwing it on directly into the frame of the canvas in a few key spots. And yes, I know you can see the screws right now, but don't worry, we're going to cover those up later. Trust me. This just felt like the more secure and straightforward way to do it. I did want to firmly place it on, and those screws did the job really well. After that, I went over the screws with a black marker. I mean, even though we are going to cover them up, I just didn't want any shiny gold dots peeking through. Just an additional step to make sure they don't do that. Now it's time to embellish. And this part is everything. Not only is it going to bring the whole piece to life, it's the perfect way to hide all of those screws under some crystally magic. So I'm using acrylic stones here, a mix of different sizes, and I'm blending them in with a touch of alcohol ink and some UV resin, and then placing them over the screws and a few spots here and there where I felt like it needed some crystal magic. I love using real crystals when I can, but for this piece I had to hold back. It's already heavy. The last thing I need is to overload the canvas frame, and there's only so much weight it's going to take. So I stuck with acrylic stones, and they're light, they're sparkly, and they get the job done. But I couldn't resist adding a little bit of the real thing, and I had these gorgeous tiger's eye pebbles, and the color matched that rich brownie gold mica so well. I just had to tuck a few of those around for good measure. And now I'm finally ready to show you this beauty in all its bendy sculptural glory. Also, I need your help. What would you name this piece? I'm really curious to hear your ideas. So drop me a comment in the suggestions. Let's see who gets the most poetic or the most unhinged title. I'm here for both, to be honest. That, my friends, is how you bend resin. I have mixed feelings about this. I mean, is it nice or is it giving abstract chaos with commitment issues? We need to take this up in the comments. I'll see you in the next video. Bye. If you've enjoyed this video, YouTube thinks you will like these too, so go check them out.